Okay, we should be almost ready to do this. And then we'll... Okay, now let me go back to this. Okay, recording.
The February 2021 regular meeting of the Board of Water Commission calls to order. First on the agenda, reading of the minutes of the previous meeting.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of last month's meeting.
Second.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Presentation of bills and accounts.
I move we accept the bills as presented and pay the accounts.
I'll second it.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. COVID.
We have one active case. He's home recovering. He had a pretty, I wouldn't say, I mean, it wasn't life-threatening, but he's been pretty sick with flu-like symptoms for, a week or so now. All his close contacts at the plant, everybody was negative. We quarantined until they got the requisite number of time and negative tests. And we also had the plant disinfected because, this was our lab guy who, is all over and touches. We have a lot of touchscreen that everybody has to, communally share. So we had that taken care of and we're doing okay. Everybody else is, we're hoping to weather the storm, as it were.
Judy,
Yes.
do you have a authorization or a program or anything now to get the guys to go get shots or no?
Wish I did. We are not considered essential in one, I think we're 1C. And so, I mean, we have several people here that really, really would like to be vaccinated, especially some of our older employees. But that doesn't seem to be happening. And yet, I got an email from the county yesterday and I got a shot today. And I didn't register as anything other than an employee of the water department. I don't know.
I thought the water distribution and all that was covered under, critical, departments, employees or.
Under Homeland Securities, we are actually considered first responders. We are certainly considered essential workers, but when Governor Cuomo rolled this out, obviously there's only so much vaccine. And so medical workers, so there was the 1As and then the 1Bs included the teachers and included police, fire, EMS, and we're down in 1C. Now, I don't know when they're going to get to 1C because they've also opened it up now to anybody with comorbidities and anybody 65 and older. So that's a lot of Ulster County. So I don't know. And I reached out to DOH and Ulster County Health Department to see, should we be submitting a list of employees? And I'm waiting on a response.
Would it be possible to just, are you qualified in this batch now that they're doing? I mean, I don't know where 1C fits as far as, the over 65 first, responders. Are you in that group or no?
Well, I think they're currently vaccinating 1A and 1B, and we're down in 1C.
Okay.
And I haven't been vaccinated yet. I'm in 1B. And I'll tell you what, I have an appointment in Syracuse on March 19th. Yeah. If I can get something closer, I will. But I have been on every single list there is and have not received a call except if I want to stay up from midnight till 2 in the morning trying to get in somewhere.
I just got mine today, so I'm good.
Congratulations. I'm happy.
Well, you have to go line, and I think you have a better chance if you go through Rite Aid Walmart, wherever. I mean, there was like 4 options for this area. I went to Ellenville today, but you could have went to Kingston and get my second shot in Sorgeties, but within a 25-mile radius, you know, and I talked to the guy and they have another 100 at Walmart they're going to be putting out. So, I mean, it's like, maybe if you were qualified, you could do it on your own and the people in the department could do it on their own.
Well, everyone here in the department that I've talked to that really wants the vaccination, and that's all of our older employees, and some of the younger ones, but mostly, and some of our guys got it as volunteer firemen, so they
Right, that's definitely, yeah.
they've already had their second shot. But those of us who want it, everybody's registered either with the county and registered with the state. And no one was more surprised than I to see that email come through that I was eligible to get the shot this morning. I still believe in my heart of hearts it was a mistake, but I don't know. I don't know how it happened, but it happened, and I'm grateful.
Is there anybody else we can talk to about bidding?
We've been in touch with Chris Wheeler at DOH, and I mean, just to, all of us collectively as a water group, through New York AWWA, and she doesn't have much to tell us.
No.
She's trying, but,
Cahill's office or?
I guess we could, but I mean, the thing is,
Now, Judy, when you say you're 1A, B, or C, is that through the county or is that through the state?
that's on the state list, and I think the county's using the state,
They are, they're supposed to be, yeah.
Right. So I have no idea, but, there are people here that would like them. And I guess it's an issue. There's a lot of people that need to have them. I don't envy anybody to have to prioritize who gets them first.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough.
Well, maybe a call at Cahill's office or
I can try.
something,
I mean,
just to say that, I just disagree with the fact that they're 1C. I think they're just as essential as, volunteer firemen or anything. I mean,
I would say,
and I think our
water treatment plant goes down, you have no water.
well, and if our wastewater guys, I mean, they also are in harm's way as well. I mean, there's live virus going through that plant every day. And so I agree that water is important, and the wastewater guys are at as much, not greater risk, and that we all need to be up there. I agree.
We probably don't have many other employees that are in the 1B, right? Age-wise?
Oh, our employees?
Yeah, our employees.
I'm the oldest person, other than Bill, I'm the oldest employee here.
Right. But do we even have anybody else that qualifies?
No one else is over 65,
65, right? Yeah, so I mean, we would have to rely on,
just us.
right.
But-
Also
but-
got,
opening it up to another 30,000 people in the county by extending or expanding the qualified individuals.
I'll reach out to the folks at the health department.
Let's say that you'll never get.
That's what they're afraid of.
exactly.
They're all afraid.
Okay, and nothing else other than that?
No,
Okay.
we're doing, Andrew is recovering and we're doing fine.
Cooper Lake.
Everybody got that wonderful project labor agreement feasibility study? I apologize for emailing that, but we sent the board packets out on Friday and I didn't get this till about noon on Saturday from Ed. And that's not a criticism of Ed and Erase Consulting. I mean, this study could take up to 30 days and he turned it around in about 10. And so I was grateful that he got it to us in as short a time as he did. It's not pleasant reading, but it looks as if, the last page, page 15 kind of says it all. Obviously, he can't guarantee that we're going to save $379,543 by signing the project labor agreement. We could save more, we could save less. This is based on certain assumptions that, there's going to be 8 Saturdays that get rained out during 21 months of construction. There could be 10, there could be 5, that kind of thing. That we're going to have 15% overtime costs and So it's predicated on those assumptions, which, you know, he didn't pull those out of the air. He pulled those based on what our engineers are, you know, we chatted with the engineers and it was kind of an educated consensus. But I don't want anybody to think that we're absolutely gonna save $380,000. It should be in that range, so.
So you're-
What?
Robert, Judy, you're in favor of the agreement?
I don't know if it, I guess I am. I mean, I guess I don't, but I really think that, you know, the union came into us, made a presentation, the board committed to doing this study, which we did, and the study indicates that we have savings. I don't really see a downside. I mean, if we don't, I don't know how you can, at the end of the day, you can't audit this and figure out, did we actually save that amount of money? You know, I don't know, but I have no way to dispute this. I mean, it seems like I don't see where the board really has a choice, is really what I'm trying to say.
So what's the next step? If we do accept this,
Right.
we go that process as opposed to open bidding?
Well, we bid it. It's an open bid.
Oh, it is?
It is an open bid. Oh, yes.
Okay.
There are criticisms of a project labor agreement say you're limiting the bid process. And that's not, anybody can bid this project, whether you're a union contractor or you're an open shop contractor. The only thing you're suggesting is if you're an open shop contractor, when the water department and the labor union signs this agreement, then you're saying to that contractor, yeah, you're an open shop contractor, but you must hire, this agreement is now yours, and you must have, you know, you can only have 12% of your non-union guys on, everybody else has to come out of the union wall. But they can bid on it. Now typically, they don't, but one of the things that Ed looked at was, we had a lot of conversations, and he said, there are some municipalities in the northern part of the state where they're far removed from a union hall and, you know, distance-wise. And he has recommended that they don't enter into a project labor agreement because you end up with a labor shortage and you end up with more project costs. But that's not the case here. There's lots of competent labor, unionized labor for this project.
So we go out to open bid like we would normally go on any of our other projects.
Correct.
But the bid document says that this is going to be a PLA.
It says that we are executing this between the union and the water department, and this is now your contract to follow. So they know that when they bid this contract, that this is part of the bid documents.
Okay, that's what you have there is not what we were.
This is a contract that we just got, that Bill and I and Matt are
Okay.
looking over to make sure that everything that's in here that says it actually shows up in here. I believe it is.
Okay, so that's the actual contract,
This is the draft of the actual contract. It's
Contract.
43 pages. It's not pleasant reading.
and is that part of the bid
That
documents?
becomes
go out?
part of the bid document. So it's imperative that we,
So they know when they're submitting a bid,
yes,
what they're agreeing to in regards to the
yes,
PLA.
yes.
Okay.
And so, you know, Matt's gone through it. He has some comments. Phil's gone through it. I've gone through it, and we need to kind of bring some of those together. And then I need to reach out to the union and get some clarification. One of the items in here is, there's names of 3 arbitrators if there's a dispute. Well, Bill and I are thinking we don't really care because that would be a dispute between the contractor and the union, and it's okay to have the name. But if it's between us and the union, then Bill wants to know something about the names that are in this contract. So we just need those clarifications because this is the first time we've ever been through this. But I think those are, you know, largely this mirrors, from what we can tell, pretty much what was in here. And this is one that Ed provided to us. This was between the union and the Newburgh school districts. It's one of the most recent ones they have. And the union promised Ed that we would get everything that was in here. And this is the document that he used to put this together. We just need to verify that.
Okay.
So what I would ask is that if the board is so inclined to approve a project labor agreement based on the feasibility study, that we do that tonight, and that subject to Bill's approval, that we clean this contract up and then call you in to sign it, that is subject to Bill's, approval, the actual contract.
Okay,
What we're gonna do is we're gonna take Ed Erase's suggestions of what's to be included, and we're going to include it into the PLA agreements by incorporation, so that we have everything that Ed Erase suggested
So that it becomes like
within our
this.
agreement. As far as saving money, I don't understand how the money is being saved, except what this does, this coordinates all of the unions to work under one set of rules, as opposed to having each union have a separate set of rules. Like one union may only work on Monday and the other may only work on Friday. You may want to have them working together instead of overtime, so it coordinates all the unions. It's a very good plan.
so this agreement though is actually with us and who?
The unions, the council, the business council,
Okay.
and
It represents all the
Yeah.
electrical union, the steam fitters union,
And everyone they don't represent. One of the things we had to do to put this draft together was we had to identify all the trades that would be on this project, which we have to do anyway under labor law. So that was already done. So the business council signs us on behalf of all their members, carpenters, electricians. And then all of the other unions that aren't in that building trades, they sign separately. But every union that's gonna be on that site is going to, and they've already talked, like the iron workers. I didn't realize every time you put rebar and concrete, you need an iron worker. I just didn't know. It's,
Yep.
yeah, anyway, all the trades are in here. So they sign independently and they take care of that. But we need to get this out on the street, so I can't wait till the March meeting.
Right. okay.
But this also, Dennis, is theoretically, it eliminates any possibility of a strike. By signing this, the unions indicate that there should not be any strike on this job, which is important, if a strike did occur. And also, it also, Judy will go over that, it eliminates the Wicks law also.
Yeah, I read that in.
Which is not for us a major issue, because the Wicks law would give a general contract and a very small electrical. But in other contracts, that's huge, because you have one point of contact, one point of coordination. Just as a concrete example on what you can save on the labor here. Labor law says that for all of these unions, it's all predicated on an 8-hour day. This project has to be completed. It's a very tight timeline. And so you may want, in the nicer, longer days of summer, you may want to work 10-hour days. You may want to work 4 10s to get more work done. When you do that, hour 9 and hour 10 are, in some cases, some unions it's double time, and some unions it's time and a half. This will allow you to work 4 10s and be 40, and then have a straight time day on Friday if you get rained out. So that's a $96,000 savings they project, just being able to do that. And so there are some concrete labor savings there with being able to manipulate the hours. And the only way you can do that under labor law would not allow us under an open contract to go negotiate that. You would have to pay overtime, hour 9, hour 10. But because the PLA, the only way you can do that is if you have a PLA on the project.
So in his submission to us that we reviewed, not the contract.
Yeah,
He talked about his firm negotiated PLAs, and is that kind of then what we're kind of doing here by reviewing the contract, is negotiating?
he is.
My idea of negotiating is that, we send to the union X, Y, Z, and they send back to us something else, and we agree, but it sounds like to me is.
He's already got this. He talks to the union reps and gets this.
He has to call Todd DiOrio and guys like Mike Ham ahead of time to be able to know how to make these projections.
And so the fee that we paid a race,
Is just for this.
just for that, are we paying extra
Well-
for that?
Well, no, I mean, and he said he would negotiate it, but there's really not, these are so tried and true.
Okay, I mean, that's
That
what I was
this
a
is
little
pretty much a
confused about.
boilerplate, And,
Okay.
there's things that we can ask, there's certain exclusions on certain things that we may not want them to have control, like the SCADA that we're gonna put in there. Maybe we wanna ask for an exclusion that our engineers can install that and they don't have to, I don't know, but I'm saying there's a couple things in here. It says any engineering firm is exempt from some of this stuff, except if they're gonna take core samples, and that's what they're gonna take to do testing. You may wanna ask that they be able to do that, because I know our engineers wanna make sure, they have very strict standards for dam work on actually how you take those core samples, and they maybe wanna be able to hands-on that, so, and I don't think those are, Newburgh had several concessions in their contract. For things that, nobody, it was
So
on.
the actual negotiations are things that you and Bill,
Yeah,
whatever,
I mean,
doing.
it's a question of calling these guys up and the two of them and asking them, hey, this is really important to us, and there's some of them are typos. Quite honestly, there's references to school district in this
Okay.
document that just was a carryover from the previous one, that we just have to ask for, a correction. It's a typo. There's nothing substantive that we're gonna ask for.
So are there any other questions? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to, I guess,
Accept
go
it.
contract with a PLA.
Yes, to enter into a project labor agreement.
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Any further discussion? Okay, those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried. Let's see what we do. Anything else on Cooper Lake?
No, I don't think so. That's enough. We're ready. The bid documents are ready.
So when do you expect to go out to bid?
Well, this has got to be signed and sealed before we do that. So we're gonna try to get this done like in the next week or so. And then I'll give you a call and you can execute it.
Okay.
So
by the end of the month?
right. And, yeah, because we need to be out on, it needs to be done before then.
And how quickly do we expect bids to be returned by?
That's gonna be, this is a complicated bid, so the engineer's gonna need like 2 weeks to go over everything. So we may not make March meeting to have everything back to us because,
We can always call a special meeting.
exactly, we may have to do that to award the bids. There's a lot of contractors that are out there that are calling up every day about this, so.
Okay.
And I don't talk, I don't even return their phone calls. I just tell Jane to tell them that, when the bids come out, because they're all looking for inside baseball.
Is that going to Dodge reports?
What?
Let's go to the Dodge.
It goes in the reports. I don't know which ones the engineers use. I don't even know. Jim, does Dodge reports even still exist?
Was that,
They go into the sites where all the contractors can hear about it. And then once it's on the street and published, that we're officially out to bid, they will reach out to specific contractors that they know that have the track record to do this kind of work. They'll alert contractors. I know DA Collins is interested in it, and so Schultz.
Okay. Moving on.
Mhm.
Transmission main rehab.
I think in your board packet, there's a request for the final payment that's not retainage.
So change it.
It'd be a change order. It's, what is it, $4,300? 40, sorry,
32.
Yeah.
43.
3258. And that's, that's where Paul from CDM, we had some credits and we had some, things we owe them. And this is kind of the net of all of those accumulated things over the course of the project. So now the only thing left is the retainage, and that's gonna be held until we make sure that the grass seeding worked. And it looked really good early in the fall, and really right up until we had this last freeze bit. And we're insisting that they plant some trees. And well, by the time we kind of hammered that out and argued that back and forth, it wasn't, the time to plant the trees was done. So they'll be back to do that.
So how much retained should we end up holding for all this?
Okay, give me a minute.
Percentage.
I think on this project, there's 2% retainage.
Mm.
And the reason it's so small, Cooper Lake, it's gonna be, I think, the maximum, I think it's 5%. This, in a transmission main project like this, you put pipes together, you pressure test them, they either hold the pressure or they don't. There really wasn't that many moving parts, so.
Landscaping.
49,000.
Yeah, we're holding about 49,000 on there. Yep.
Okay, so I need a motion to accept this change.
I'll make a
order.
motion.
Second? Did I have a second? Oh,
I
okay.
said, I said I second it.
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Almost done with it.
Yeah, I mean, everything is working well. Valves are.
Okay. We at 2020.
We almost have the scope finalized. We had to go give them we had to do some work on the valves in town to kind of identify so they could estimate the cost. But I expect in a week or so, by the next meeting, I hope to have the scope estimates of what the costs are, and then we can, I need costs on what unit prices are gonna be on certain things, because we gotta make sure that we stay on budget with this. And just, spend the money that's been allotted.
This kind of ends up the grant loan.
So we're kind of working on that. So we had a really good meeting. They know what they have to do. We've given them everything that we needed from us. Ryan sent his guys out, we cleaned out all the gate boxes. We took measurements, so we know how deep everything is. So we're doing okay.
Okay. Quarry Street?
I'm waiting on the school district again, but I have a meeting next week with Dennis Larios to finalize the bids. Bill has an agreement kind of in his head that he wants to write up, and we're just waiting for who on their end we send it to have them approve it. At this point, I think if we just write it up and send it up to the district office,
It's just a letter to those ways.
it's just a letter, yeah, it's very
Sign here,
simple.
do you agree the following?
Yeah, it's not gonna be
You're not
hard.
anticipating any issues on their end though, right?
No, not at all. They're kind of excited about getting this done and not having to manage the contract. That's, we have on Quarry Street, that neighborhood is, there's a reason that it's called Boulder Avenue up in that neighborhood in Quarry Street. We've been there, we went out last Sunday at 6 o'clock at night. The guys finished up at 6 a.m. in the morning. It was, they jackhammered, all these mains up there sitting right on the rock.
So we got another,
We collectively have all been looking for water in the Grandview system. We normally would have a daily flow of a couple hundred, maybe 300,000 gallons. We're up to almost 600,000 gallons. And we're to the point where we can't keep bidding water where we want it. We're having trouble filling a county tank. And as I said to Ryan, it'll find us. It collapsed the road, so we found it. But it'd been running for some time. And then Monday at 4 o'clock, we were back up on Marilena because we had another one. That one helped. And then today we had one under the railroad tracks over here in the county records parking lot.
Mhm.
And so we were able to, we're pretty certain the leak is under Conrail, which we can't just dig that up. So,
not the one we lined.
No, that's Stevan. See, Emmerich, it's on Emmerich. Emmerich Street used to go all the way through from Farley to Foxhole. And so it cuts through the back of Ashley Mechanical, and the 6-inch main also cuts right through the edge of the county building. On the far end of the county records building, there's a telephone pole. The telephone pole's almost on the water main. Anyway, we were able to get a good shutdown today, and we dug in the county parking lot and inserted a valve. So we valved it off. And at some point, we're gonna have to go back and get a Conrail permit and, jack and board fix it under the tracks, but that's another day. So we fixed 3 big leaks in the last 72 hours. So it's gonna be a big overtime this week. Matt's looking forward to calculating all that. Good news is the guys, busted their tail. I mean, it was 18 degrees the other night. It was horrible, and but everybody came out, everybody did what they had to do, and
It's supposed to be cold this coming weekend, right?
yeah, I know. But 'tis the season.
Yeah, it is. The roundabout.
I haven't heard it. I've asked several times, could they give us an idea of what the, overages are gonna be, what, if there's any change orders, so that we could sort of budget. I don't have any expectation that they'd close the contract out with us yet, but, we're holding money that we're paying interest on, and we'd like to give it back. So Matt and I kind of said, we're gonna give half of it back and hang on to half of it, because if we have $400,000 worth of change orders on this project, something's crazy, because I'm not aware of any change orders. There might be a few minor ones, but I'm not really aware of any. I've never been informed of any.
So how much have we paid out? Anything? I
Just
mean,
the-
well, we
just the
paid,
initial payment.
It's a ban right now, so there are initial payments every year.
Oh, you mean in terms of borrowing?
You know, how much is paid out to the state?
To the state, $571,000.
So we're estimating there can't be $400,000 worth of change orders on a $500,000 contract.
oh, we have that much.
We borrowed based on before we scaled the project back.
We borrowed, how much we actually borrowed?
$1.5 million.
$1.5 million, okay.
We have $443,000 in cash left from that.
Yeah.
So we can give back 200, and we still have 243 left in case they come back with change orders.
Okay, now we'll cut back down our interest we'd be paying. Thank you. Okay. Tech City?
One more thing on the roundabout,
Okay.
Bill, you'll be very pleased about this. I got a note from their chief engineer that they want the contract executed yet again.
Oh, nice.
We signed this contract at least 4 times. And every time somebody in Albany, the powers that be, when they get the contract in, there's a piece missing. I mean, it's on their end all the time. Something wasn't notarized or something, whatever. So they're asking us to sign it yet again. So, I'm
Just
just,
ask for our money back and say,
Yeah.
we're not signing the contract.
well, I said to the guy, suppose we don't do this, what are you gonna do? You already got our money. Anyway, we'll sign it, I mean, but they want you to sign and they want you to sign, and so I have it, I'll print it out and it'll be here whenever. This was just the other day. I said, really?
Tech City.
I have nothing further to report.
Talked about trying to set up a meeting here.
I, with all the things that we've had going on, but I need to do that, and I will send out that email tomorrow.
Yeah.
I apologize.
EIS.
Doing well. Debbie's plugging along at it. We're making progress. I expect to have something, as I indicated, by the end of this year that the guys can actually take out and use in the field. She's been very helpful because we've cataloged all the maps that we have. And so like today, first of all, Debbie's office is now upstairs in this building. So she's not back out at the plant. So Ryan, texted her from the job site and said, hey, can you look up an old map about Emmerich Street and I mean, and so she scans it in and said, it's really very helpful just to have her there doing it. So it's been very, very positive. I can take that off the agenda until I have something to tell you,
Sure, yeah.
because otherwise,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
tell you the
it's the
same
same
thing
thing.
every
It's-
month.
we're
We're doing
working on it.
well. Yeah,
We're working on
yes.
it. Lead and copper.
I know I sent that out to everybody, and I know, man, it's really complicated, I gotta tell you. And I'm not, I just really want the board to be aware of what's coming down. There was some initial confusion. Lead service lines are gonna be banned, but when we originally got the guidance on this out of EPA, the date, the day it's published in the federal record is the day that it becomes a rule. And then it becomes officially a rule 90 days thereafter. So it was March 16th, and they originally said everything was in effect on March 16th, and that's not the case. So total lead services are gonna be banned on January 16th, 2024.
New services.
No, if you have a lead service in your home and it leaks on under the street or in your front, you gotta go the whole length. There's no, I'll leave the lead in here and you can't do that.
Replace the whole thing.
You gotta replace
That's
it.
not our charge. That's gonna be the homeowner's charge.
Well,
Not what I read.
not if you read this carefully. It's unclear. It says that if the homeowner, the rule is based on the assumption that the customer owns from the curb to the meter and the utility owns from the main to the curb.
But we don't consider that.
Well,
in our
a lot of
regulations.
utilities don't. I mean,
And-
Rochester doesn't, New York City doesn't, Ulster doesn't, Saugerties doesn't. It's pretty common.
Still- But it doesn't matter according to this wording.
Well, but it doesn't. It
Well,
says
what-
if they replace their portion, you have to replace within 45 days the other portion, but it also says that we don't have to pay for anything that they own. I have the same consternation. The other thing it
Yeah, I
says,
had read that saying, well, we don't own the lateral.
Matter in there.
it didn't seem to matter, but also it says that we have to set up some sort of a bank to be able to help people who can't afford the replacement. That's gonna be huge. That's a huge undertaking. And this is not just, this is everybody. So the first thing I would like you to think about this, but I think at some point before the 24th of, the 2024, we should ban partial lead service replacements. Because we're just asking for a headache. If in June, plumbers start replacing half of people's services, we're gonna be responsible for getting the rest out of the ground.
Is that part of the plumbing code? Is that part of?
Yes, and I sent out an email when I first got the guidance, and so before I sent out a follow-up to kind of clarify what I've since learned, I wanted to bring it up to the board, and tomorrow I'll send out a clarification to the city engineer and to the plumbing inspector. I mean, we really need to figure out how we're gonna handle this.
Would
This
that
is-
require legislation by the council though?
I don't know, I have, it's 115 pages, the law, I'd be happy to share it with you. I mean, it's in a binder, you can make notes on it.
I just wonder if you're going to amend that as you require, that would require amendment of the plumbing code of the city. Would it not?
I don't know, the plumbing code, that's our rules talk about what the composition of your service can be. But that's an issue, maybe that is the best way to handle it. I don't know, but it's a vexing issue, it's a good thing, getting the lead out of the ground, there's no amount of lead that's good for anybody. But because this legislation puts all the onus on the water utilities. And I mean, it also further says that we have to go into every certified daycare center once every 5 years and take 5 samples. And the daycare lists are listed by zip code. Well, that's not just city of Kingston, isn't the 1, 2, 4. Matt and I looked at the list, there's about 35 we're gonna have to add. Also, anybody, we have to notify everybody who has a lead service every year in writing, and they have a right to ask us to go do a lead test at our expense for them. It's just, this is gonna put,
Can you do the lead test in your lab?
no.
No.
No, we're not certified for that, and we looked at getting certified. We'll have to look at it again in light of this, because it wasn't cost effective for us to do it before because of the quality control aspects of it. But it may be, we may change our thinking on that. We may wanna do
How
that.
much does the lead test cost?
$25, lead tests are not bad. But they change, and I can't predict if we're gonna pass this time either, because I gave you our last results, but they've changed the sampling protocols. So anybody who participated before, we gave you a liter of water and you collected it and we analyzed it. Now we have to give you 5 1-liter bottles.
Okay.
And you have to fill all 5, and we have to have them numbered, which is an easy thing. And we have to analyze lead out of the 5th liter and copper out of the 1st liter. And there is some suggestion that the lead peaks in the 5th liter, and we've only ever sampled in the 1st liter. So we're all up in, we've had no problem passing the lead and copper previously.
What about whole house flushing?
Yes, that, we also have to provide that guidance.
How- That sounds interesting. What do you do with that?
You want to help? What do you have to teach them how to flush from the upper faucets. You kind of start at the bottom and work their way up the house. How do you flush a house, Jim? I mean, the same way, right?
Yeah,
That's really what the guidance is to tell them. The other thing is, if we shut your water off for fixing a water main break and you have a lead service, we have to know in that neighborhood who has the lead services. And then we have to provide you a Brita style filter with 6 months worth of cartridges at our expense. They're about $100 a pop. There's a lot of moving parts in this legislation. It's not bad, but the onus is on us, and it's gonna cost the water department moving forward funds. And it's gonna, I would estimate in the first couple of years that this takes effect, it's gonna take another full-time person to manage it, because part of it's a burden in the office, part of it's downstairs, and part of it's sampling. And I don't necessarily mean, the first thing we would look at is, how to steal part-time from this position and have everybody work cooperatively, but it's gonna be it's a huge burden.
You developed this
I put this together.
from the federal
From the
the federal
150, yeah.
rule. You haven't heard from the state health department.
We have a meeting, we have a Zoom meeting with Chris next week.
Okay, I'd like to see what.
Would you like to be on that?
Well,
I can send you the link.
Yeah, send it to me.
Okay.
Because I'd like to see what, their take is
Well,
about, especially those things where there's additional cost by us.
we had to submit all of our questions in the Water Utility Council that she's going to be asked up front, because they don't like surprises.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Well, and it's better for us because
Well, no, 'cause
they can be prepared. They can get us
Right,
the
they
answer.
needed the answer, as opposed to say, well, I'll get back.
That's right. So,
No, it's
and
good.
it actually makes the meeting go quicker because our chair can ask all the questions and he can collate them ahead of time and kind of combine them. So it's actually a much more efficient system. But I'm interested because I don't think the state has any more insight on this because it came down from the feds.
Yeah.
It was published on January.
Outreach. I mean, there's to the public, there's a lot involved in this. Literature about the bad problems with lead.
Oh,
You
yeah.
must have a flyer made up or something. I don't.
Oh, we're gonna have to. We're gonna have to do annual public outreach to everybody. We have to do a lead service inventory, and that's gonna be our first challenge. And we'll be able to have a better estimate of the impact on resources and finances in this department once we actually go out and do that inventory. We start by doing the inventory in the property records that we have. So we can eliminate any tap we made from 1960 on, because that's gotta be copper. But then we have to actually go out and we're gonna have to pothole. And we have we bought that new, valve box cleaner that's actually at the curb. We're gonna, in the nice weather, we're gonna have to do some potholes and see what's on either side of the curb to see. Because we can't go by tap dates anymore, because the lead replacement showed us that even though you have a tap that was made in 1884, in 1884, in 1925, or 1960, you called Jim Noble. Were you a plumber in 19? Probably not. You probably called your father in 1960.
Early
And
high school.
yeah, you're right. You were probably helping your father. They didn't make a new tap. They did a little, what they call a lead pack connector, which was always illegal to use, but everybody used them, and they connected to the old lead tap. And so even though our records say you didn't come to us for a tap, so you must be lead, we're finding it's copper all the way in them. We know we got lead services, but we may not have as many as we think we have. This list has to be publicly available. So I don't know what it's gonna do to real estate.
And it talks to pigtails too, right? I mean, even if they wipe the lead on it, that pigtail is still probably hooked to the service that you would have to.
It is, and a pigtail by itself does not constitute a lead service.
Okay,
Anytime the water department is out there and we're doing work and we come across a pigtail, we must get rid of it immediately. And that's not a big deal. We just have to make a
new tap.
Jim, maybe you can answer this question. Joanne asked, what's it cost to replace the whole lead service? It depends
Well,
what-
the cost is the excavator, and that's probably $2,000 to $3,000 just for that. And then the copper, I mean, you're probably looking at 4,000 to 5,000.
Yeah, and if it's done in the wintertime, under emergency conditions.
you
and
Copy
frost,
you have to put on and everything, and bonding, permits, and all that stuff.
right, and Joanne, if the main is right near your side of the street, it's cheaper than if it's on the other side.
Yeah, I was wondering how affordable it was going to be. you know, for
Expensive.
the Average homeowner.
I would see between 4 and 7. Yeah.
I guess then, I don't know, yeah, I mean, something is gonna have to happen for some kind of like funding or something, because
Well, the city did get funding, I believe, 2 years ago, X amount of money, and I think they could do like 70 services with it. But I believe that's all deleted now. It's all gone. And, you have to decide who to give it to, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, that was a very effective program. Newburgh got it, Middletown got it, Troy got it, Albany got it. So the need is out there. We're all in the same situation. So, I'm not trying to, I think the first step we need to do is by the end of this year, we need to commit to having a good handle on that service lateral inventory, to know the number. Once we know the number, then we can pick out the pieces that are going to be maybe problematic for us. How do you get along? I mean, how do you set up public assistance for people who can't afford it? We're not a lending institution. It's just a challenge on how to.
Can you detect a lead in the water from a lead service or no? If you do a sample.
Yes. Well, I'm sorry. Say that again.
If you have a lead service and you don't know, test the water, it'll show up because they're usually so covered inside when you take it apart. I didn't know if it would bleed through or not anymore.
When we do the testing, we go to all what they call tier 1 sites. Every one of our sites, we have to go to 30 every 3 years. Now, starting in 2024, we're going to have to go back to the beginning and do 60 twice a year. If we pass, then we do, so instead of 120 the first year, assuming we get good results, we go to 60 the next year, and then we can go back to that reduced monitoring frequency. But you're right, we only go to people with lead services. And there's a passivating film on the inside, and we have very few people that have high lead levels. We do really well. My concern is they've changed sampling protocols.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens, right? We'll see what happens. I mean, we have we do add corrosion inhibitor for that purpose, and We think it's effective, but we're gonna find out if it is under the new protocol. So we're gonna do the lead. We're having our meeting tomorrow. That's we're gonna talk about how the best approach for that plan is.
And I'm assuming the state and the Fed AWWA people
Yeah.
will be talking to the
It's the only,
politicians about, well, yeah, you know how much it's gonna cost, you better throw some
we're,
money
we're
out
having,
there for this.
we're having a Zoom conference with Albany, with the legislature. We normally would go up and meet them in person, but it's COVID, so we're not. But on March 10th, to tell them kind of what the impact of this is. My colleague up in Rochester has really done a good analysis, and for his board to be able to say, this is what the financial impact is gonna be. And so we're gonna use that. Rochester and Kingston, the big difference is they're bigger, but we're the same age. You know, they have a lot of lead services. So it's the main topic of the Water Utility Council.
Judy, one last question. Now, it also talks about if you replace the lead service, either full or partial, you have to provide a 6-month supply of filters. For after you're installed, we flushed it and everything, you have to have filters and give them 6 months. You have to put a filter system in also?
Well, you have to give them like a Brita, like a pitcher filter.
Oh, just up there. Okay, not a whole house filter.
No, you can opt to do that if you want. We're not, I don't think the water department's gonna opt to do that, but you have to give them a Brita style filter. And I've actually looked at those online, some of them are, you can probably, I'm sure when this really hits the fan, they're gonna go up in price because of demand. But they're between $35 and $90 a piece. And I'm sure, if you buy 500 of them, you'll probably get some discounts. So they're not astronomical. They're not like a whole house filter system or even under
Now we'll
sink.
return them after they're done with it, after the 6 months.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of people are gonna be mad at the water department.
I know, we're
Even though
gonna,
it's fault.
we gotta do the public outreach. We gotta do all of that. So,
More to come.
more to come. I just want it on everybody's radar. And I think at some point, Bill and I we'll talk, and Matt will talk about the current regulations and maybe, stop allowing partial lead service lateral replacements at some point before, because everyone that's out of the ground is a big help.
Well, sooner the better, right?
I mean, but I think I want to, it's a burden on some people because financially it seems to be that the people who actually, when they have the leak and they go to do it, fix it, to do the right thing, they're oftentimes the people who are barely able to afford it. And you don't want to increase their burden, especially now. Half the people, what people's incomes have been hit. I don't care. We're fortunate. Everybody here in the water department, we've not missed a day's pay. We've come in, we've done our work. But there's a lot of people where there were 2 people working, now there's 1, or they're not working all the hours they were working. So, I think we need to be sensitive to that too. So. And I also want to look and see how many of these actually break that have to be replaced in a course of a year, of our taps. How many are actually lead and how many of them are, And Jim, the reason for the pitchers and the filters is that they've done a study, and immediately after you replace the lead, there's even though you flush, there's lead that still continues to come off for a period.
Me,
Are you going to eat?
That was that.
Okay.
So we beat that to death. Thank you.
No. Correspondence?
I have one letter, and I left it up on my desk, but essentially it's from the apartments on the corner, the Orchard Hills apartments on the corner of O'Reilly and Wilbur. And they're wonderful customers. The management team there is wonderful. They have a long history of paying on time, but they missed the last due date by 6 days. 6 days. And he paid it. And he just wrote a letter to the board asking if we could waive the penalty. And I know the answer is no, but it was addressed to you, so I will certainly I'm telling you about it, and I will write him a letter explaining why the board can't do that because of New York state law. It's essentially making a gift of public services to an individual.
Bank transfer?
That was just for the 200,000 from the roundabout, just so I can move it
Oh,
into
okay.
the expense account so we can
So we
pay
kind of
that,
went over that.
but just so I can take it out of the
Do
debt
you need,
service
need
account.
anything from us? other than the
I
fact
would
that
like a vote,
Just a motion.
just a
so-
motion and a vote for the auditors so that they know that Matt's just not moving money around.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll make that motion.
We have a second.
Second,
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, superintendent's report. Any questions? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to accept.
Make a motion.
Second,
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Promotion of Devin Sessom.
Yes, he's our trainee at the treatment plant. As I indicated in the memo that I sent, he has got his year, a little more than his year. He would have had his license sooner, but COVID canceled all the classes, because, and he was able to get into a correspondence class, and he just got his license, and in the nick of time, because he got his license. He also was quarantined because of our positive case, because he was working directly with the individual, but, he was out 4 or 5 days, he had a test, and he was able to come back, and he's a huge help. He's a wonderful young man and done a really good job, and we kind of knew he was working toward this, because you can only be a trainee for a year, so Matt included the salary, the two-way salary in the budget. So, because we knew he would be, in fact, we thought it would be for the whole year, not just that, but he missed January because of getting a late start on the class.
Okay. Do we have anybody else that's?
I have no other trainees up there,
No more.
no,
So everybody now is the 2A or
or
higher.
higher. Andrew, who is our lab tech, just got his license. And because of Andrew's previous educational background, he qualifies for a 2A license. He's in line to get a 1A license as soon as he can take the class. And so he's looking around for a correspondence course to be able to do that. And Andrew, they're both, I can't say enough about both of them. They're just, great employees. We hit the jackpot with them, and Andrew's a very capable operator as well. His primary responsibility is water quality and in the lab, but he's got a lot of skills with instrumentation, because he has a background in that as well. And so he's very good with computers and fixing things and overall operations. So and he's nothing gets him upset, which is wonderful. He's very mature, and he's just we'll figure this out. When things are going bad, he's a good guy to have around.
So we need a motion.
We do.
I'll make the motion. We accept Devin Sussman, trainee to water plant operator 2A.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So the
I'm
13th, this first next payroll?
Next payroll? Yeah, sounds good.
I also, you noted in the memo that 5 of the guys plus Matt are in line. We have to work on Matt's experience requirement because, obviously he works up here, but they took the grade D class, and all the guys downstairs have all the qualifications. We've just got to submit it to DOH, and now we'll have 5 other grade D operators, because yours truly is the only one that we have right now. And that's not a good thing. So I'm very pleased. Those guys did great in the class. I can say that because I was their principal instructor. And they did well in spite of me, I want to say.
They better.
I did, no, they were, you know, they were good. So it was a lot of fun.
Executive session, anything for that?
No.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn then.
Question.
Yeah.
How are we making out on that personnel issue that we talked about?
We're doing okay with it. We have to set up a meeting and I'm working through Julie to do that, Julie Shaw. So that is in the works and we're working on that, yes.
Okay, anything else?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second? Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, all right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Aye. There.
Good night, everybody.
All right,
I
stay
will send
safe.
out a
Stay
text.
healthy.
Thank you.
Hey.
Night, thank you, Michelle.